Hi guys, today I'll be reading the progression of Frank's overarching statement chronologically. These four statements span from around February 2020 to November 2022. I hope you enjoy seeing the progress and concept.
Smile.
Can I read this too?
No.
Okay. The integration of dry humor as well as visceral shock and unease in my work is important as a means of communication, general discomfort when one views these paintings. Much of my work is
Figurative.
figurative and
Photographically
referential without being photorealist. My source material comes from images on the internet as well as my own photos. In doing this, I am pandering to a specific subculture of young people on the internet that are familiar with the concept and physical qualities of digital artifacted photos and digital flash photography. Painting these images and putting them in a physical space helps to remove my subjects from their digital reality and allows them to be more accessible to the common viewer. A keen eye for color, exaggeration, and technical skill in painting application makes for work that is pleasing to the eye regardless of subject matter. Frank Hadzima. The absurdity of daily life through the lens of the internet is an important component of viewing my work. Here the viewer is met with an oil painting of a cat picture taken with a camera flash along a painting in gouache of a YouTube thumbnail depicting a dramatic scene of two men having a verbal altercation in front of a large pile of Cheetos. Both of these subjects are very commonplace online, respectively. Much of my work is figurative and photographically referential without being photorealistic. I get this source material from images on the internet as well as my own photography. In doing this, I am pandering to a specific subculture of people who can recognize humor that can frankly be disturbing or uncomfortable to those who are uninitiated. This aspect of blatant alienation is part of what makes these images funny to begin with. Think of it as a joke that flies over your head on top of your friends finding the joke funny. They can't help but bust a gut at the fact that something so obviously funny to them has completely eluded you altogether. In terms of materiality, I am replicating the physical qualities of digitally artifacted photos and phone flash photography. Painting these images and putting them in a physical space helps to remove my subjects from their origin online and allows them to be more accessible to the common viewer. A keen eye for color, exaggeration, and technical skill in paint application makes for work that is pleasing to the eye, regardless of subject matter. In my paintings, I use dry humor and visual cues that can create an uneasiness in my paintings. Much of my work is figurative and referential of photography. I have a keen eye for color, exaggeration, and technical skill in paint application, which makes for work that is pleasing to the eye regardless of subject matter. My subjects are often painted on an intimate scale, which allows them to function differently depending on the viewer's proximity to them. From afar, they appear as well-rendered paintings of photos. Upon closer scrutiny, they break apart and become beautiful demonstrations of color, exaggeration, and gestural brushwork. My source images come from my own, often candid photography, as well as spaces online such as Reddit or pages on Instagram. These bizarre and uncanny fragmented narratives that I paint create an uncomfortable sense of humor. This is not a humor that is supposed to be overly laughed at, but one that makes you wonder, why was something like this documented in the first place? And furthermore, what can I say? No. Why did someone take the time to document this by painting it? It is often implied that my subjects are well aware of the presence of a viewer, and yet they continue to perform whatever act they seem to have been caught doing. Whether that be a small man enjoying a woman who is more than twice his size or someone who's been smashed in the head with a blunt object. Oil painting in itself has a history of being used as a tool of documentation before the invention of photography. I am carrying the torch in a way and doing something similar. Through the importance lies in the existence of my subjects as humans and what they do, not so much their identities akin to the American realism movement. My palette is more contemporary by comparison too. I use very dark, rich blues to convey depth and atmosphere in the spaces I depict, while bright fluorescence, reds, and oranges make up the flesh tones and textures of human skin. These intense colors, coupled with the subject's obvious awareness of your presence, is what captures the viewer's attention. This leads to an interesting balancing act when no one views my work. When one views my work, wherein they are put off by the subject matter of my paintings, but hypnotized by the beauty of their color and technique. In the end, I get to have the last laugh because I managed to trick someone into thoughtfully staring at a prolapsed anus. Oil painting has a history of being used as a tool for documentation prior to the invention of photography. I have inherited this tool and am using it to mine the odd humor that is present in online spaces such as Reddit, Instagram, 4chan, and so on. I'm using dark, rich blues to convey depth and atmosphere in the spaces I depict, while bright fluorescent reds and oranges make up the flesh tones and textures of human skin. The materiality is emphasized through stiff, matte brush strokes to create a more seductive sense of tactility when one approaches my paintings. My figurative subjects are often, though not always, making eye contact with the viewer. This shows an acknowledgement of them being documented and thus a humor born from the irony that something so mundane was worth being documented in the first place. First and foremost, the works are funny. This occurs in layers of humor that occur once installed. First, the viewer reconciles with the fact that such an absurd subject is being presented in the context of fine art. Second, there is a realization that a great deal of skill and consideration has gone into the depiction of these images that seem so mundane and not worth laboring over hours on end. Third, the works are in conversation with the likes of painters like Goya and Sorbet. Seeing something like a painting of a flush, overweight man in a bathtub, being in conversation with art history, both through being a mode of documentation and appreciation of the medium, is inherently funny. All of this culminates in a similar compulsion that we experience when looking at a car accident, which best describes my drive to paint these subjects.
I'm going to turn off the camera now.
Mm-hmm.
I have to turn off the camera.